Welcome back. Now, South Africa's cannabis industry is at a pivotal moment, with new regulations expected to be released for public comment later this year. At the center of the debate is how to balance formal growth with informal realities, and whether the current regulatory framework does enough to support inclusion and economic development. Johann Slabber, CEO of Nexus Pharma, joins us now with more insight. Johann, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. And every time we talk about, the cannabis industry, there's talk about its potential and how we could unlock it, or how it could be an economic driver. And let's start there. Where are we when it comes to unlocking the industry's potential?
100%. Thanks so much for having me. Nice to be back on the show. Yeah, so we started, it's been almost 8 years now since the decriminalization of cannabis and the regulation thereof. And we are at a stage now where, we've managed to get a lot of licenses going, a lot of cultivation licenses issued, manufacturing license, and our export potential has started. Our cultivation licenses under GACP has been issued. Section 21 local access has been opened. Global supply agreements are in place. We're busy developing regional hubs, but there's still a big lack with the potential of getting the right collaboration of different standards, opening for both medicinal and personal use, even recreational use of these products. So currently where we are, there's a lot of regulatory gaps with where we are standing. There's fragmented licensing, that's a big issue under the cultivation and manufacturing, where there's all different applications for separate licensing. Section 21 remains limited and difficult to navigate. The clubs and informal retailers are operating in legal grey zones. And then there's a big lack of coordination, across health, justice, agricultural, and even trade departments.
And that's where I actually wanted to zoom into the misalignment we are seeing between SAFRA even and lawmakers in particular. Just recently we had health minister, announce the ban of edibles and then withdraw the ban of edibles. Why is there a disconnect? Are lawmakers and SAFRA just not working together? Are they not engaging with industry players?
Absolutely correct. That is the main cause. A private and public sector has a different opinion on this approach, but we see it more in the public sectors, where different jurisdictional departments will have different opinions and views. This ban by the minister was actually based on hemp-based edibles, which is really a superfood, really great in omegas and fatty acids and proteins. But at the same time, he was looking at how can we better control the safety, efficacy, and quality of products. So I did speak about this before as well, where I describe it as a nuanced issue, because on the one side, I can understand the intention where they want to make sure that it's safe, because of the end consumer consumption, but at the same time, not understanding having the right approach and not communicating with industry stakeholders, So I think it was the right intentions, but the way on which it was performed was just wrong. But we see this across the board, last year, SAFRA made it very clear now that all the cultivation licenses are moving to the Department of Agri. The moment you start harvesting your cannabis that's cultivated, GMP conditions is now a prerequisite. Whether it's now GMP Part 1 and GMP Part 2, needs to be confirmed. But, there's a lot of miscommunication. And the biggest gap that we have faced here and challenge that we see is that because of this, we are not setting up to the right commercial standards, which is not giving us that market access, and that is limiting us in terms of industry growth.
And I can imagine it's also limiting when it comes to attracting capital and attracting funds for some of these operations. And just on the back of, the misalignment and I guess the lack of engagement with industry players, talk to me about how the industry then can be more inclusive, especially when it comes to the informal players in the field.
Yeah. So currently what we're doing is, I've been in this space for almost a decade now, and coming from the pharma business background, we've identified a gap where we said, we need to look at inclusive growth as a sector in its entirety as a whole. And how do we do that? I mean, we can look at Germany, for example, on what they've done, where they've allowed recreational use, regulated recreational use. That has opened a massive market for them locally. We are yet to be seen as a global player in this space. And one thing that we are doing currently is we found a way, or not found a way, but we're busy setting a new standard. We're having ongoing meetings and sessions with SAFRA, our regulatory body, the Department of Health, where we are going to help support and open local market access.
Okay.
I mean, currently when you export flour, you get 35 Rand, 40 Rand a gram to commercial markets, where on the local market, wholesale is anything from 60 Rand upwards, not even speaking about the retail side of things. You know, and so we're working on a way of inclusive growth where we feel that there should not be a separation between the medicinal market competing with the informal market. We need to be aligned. You know, there's barriers to entry. So how can we approach that? Because a lot of people are willing, you know, to get on top of this model. So we'll be announcing a bit of news soon. But one thing I can say is that we need to look at the collaboration between the private and public sectors. We need that support. Nexus is taking a very strategic approach where we even, last week we spent a week in Limpopo in informal settlements. We went to the Zibidela farm, which was the biggest citrus farm in South Africa, really commercial exporting citrus farm. And we're busy looking at a model where we can include the smaller guy that cannot afford to invest millions to get into this space. And also catering for, you know, both private and public sectors, traditional growers, and local market access.
All right, Johann, thanks so much for your time and just taking us through some of the intricacies playing out in the cannabis industry, and also just the challenges and opportunities that are present at this moment. That was Johann Slabber, CEO of Nexus Pharma.